can absorb some of the debt and deficit that's on the horizon.
Congresswoman, before I let you go, I want to talk about illegal immigration. You have the judge, Brian Murphy, who has blocked the Trump administration's deportation of 8 illegal immigrants, not just 8 illegal immigrants, those who have been convicted of murder, pedophilia, sexual abuse, essentially saying that these folks deserve due process. Now, this plane of 8 illegal immigrants landed in Djibouti, and they are now there until this is adjudicated. What do you make of this judge's decision, and what do you have to say to those who say that even the worst of the worst deserve due process?
Well, they didn't get due process. They didn't want due process on their way in illegally. They shouldn't get due process on their way out. They need to be deported immediately, particularly the murderers, the pedophiles, the child molesters, the rapists. They got to go first, and that's what Donald Trump is doing. But guess what? Judge Brian Murphy, he's not Secretary of State. He's not the President of the United States. He's not God. He does not get to override Donald Trump and his agenda to keep America safe. And so I hope that Donald Trump will keep deporting those murderers and rapists and do it as quick as he can, because we need to keep women and kids safe in our country. And these illegals who are here, and what I understand is some of these countries just open up their prisons and let these violent criminals come walk right into the United States of America. It's wrong. And we have the right to stand up for ourselves, our freedoms, our liberty, and our national security. At this point, it's a national security problem.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey.
Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. When you try to kill our we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. These rogue judges. All right, Mr. Murphy. It's time to walk you out. It is time to walk you out. Take them glasses off and breathe on them. Breathe on them. You know, and wipe them down. Wipe them off your suit. Maybe you could see. Because guess what? I don't know if you read the data or not, or they don't, or seen what came back and what people decided and where they voted and where majority of America went to. But the people spoke loud and clear, sir. People spoke loud and clear. But we know it ain't a surprise. These activists, liberal, left-wing, radical judges, and they think they outrank the president. The people spoke loud and clear. Then what's the point of a presidential election? We got to walk your butt out of here. And now they're calling for your impeachment. You just can't make this up. Phil Holloway says this is clear ground for impeachment of this rogue federal district court judge. These judges really think they outrank the president. You just can't make this up, man. You just can't. You just can't.
A little bit of breaking news is that the district court judge in Boston has said he's going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. So expect fireworks tomorrow when we hold this judge accountable for refusing to obey the Supreme Court.
Walk his butt out in handcuffs. They said throw the judge in handcuffs. Put your hands behind your back. Yeah, walk it. I say put the judge in handcuffs. Yeah, I usually don't say put the judge in handcuffs. But God dog, we got to start just putting everybody in handcuffs. Everybody. It don't matter who you are, what your rank is, what you. It don't matter. Hey, you don't want to do right. If you don't want to do right, God dog it, they got to put you in handcuffs. And someone need to be put, like them Patriots say, they need to put their ankles, put your ankles together. Yeah, oh yeah. We just throw you in the truck. Yeah, we just. Oh, hold on, family. We just throw you in the truck. Yeah, yeah. Take them ankles, put them ankles together. Yeah. Because the people spoke loud and clear. How many times do we got to go through this? The people voted for mass deportations. They voted for this. They voted for that. They spoke loud and clear. Sit your butt down. And they ain't gonna defy the Supreme Court? Yeah, we got to walk your butt out of there.
Worth pointing out what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday, a radical, liberal, progressive, leftist judge, Brian Murphy, who was confirmed in the lame duck session when Joe Biden, President Otto Penn, may not even have known he was appointing this person, approved by the Democrats in the Senate, is now refusing to obey by a Supreme Court order for the deportation of 7 criminal aliens. And let's just do a little bit of tail of the tape. These people are, one of them is a convicted arsonist. Another one is an armed robber. Another one is a murderer of an elderly woman. 2 more are murderers. One is a child rapist, and another is a rapist of a person with special needs. These are the people.
Wow, whoa. You see how that list just got worse as he went from individual to individual. You see how worse it got? And these are the people that are walking in our communities, in our neighborhoods, and those are the crimes they committed. And these judges, and then these judges want the planes to be turned around. They cry due process. Where is the victim's due process? Where is that mother's due process? Where's that son and daughter's due process? As they're still right now trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen? Why did it have to happen to their loved one? Where is their due process? Walk this judge out in handcuffs. Walk the judge out in handcuffs.
These are the people that the Democrats spend their time defending. And now we have a judge, through an act of, dare I say, insurrection, which is a word that's thrown around here all the time, is refusing to abide by the Supreme Court's ruling to say, yeah, actually, when you held up these deportations, you were wrong. We are ordering you to allow these deportations. This judge, Brian Murphy, decided to cite the dissenting opinion, and say, you know what? I'm going to give the Supreme Court the middle finger. I don't want to do it. To sit here and act like they have the moral high ground on obeying court orders and the rule of law, it's all a lie. And the mask has come off because Brian Murphy has shown what this is really all about. The Democrats believe in that, but only when it suits them. In this issue of illegal immigration, I can't actually believe they're doing it. I can't actually believe that this 80-20 issue, the American people want to meet mass migration with mass deportations, period. And their willingness to allow assaults on law enforcement officers who are doing their jobs is insane. What you will not hear, you've heard some Democrats disavow the violence, but what you will never hear any one of them say is that, you know what, we need to take a step back and let ICE do their jobs, because they don't really want ICE to do their jobs. And when a president comes in after campaigning on the idea that he was going to deport these 7 people, including an arsonist, a rapist, a murderer, of elderly people, of people with disabilities, that's the line. That's the red line. And now you've got a judge willing to back them up.
Just sick, man. I'll tell you, you just can't make this stuff up, family. But what's going on, fam? I don't even know if I came in here and said my intro, but I hope everybody that's tuned in right now that you're having a great week, a great month of June. The 2025 is going well for you and your family, your loved ones. I hope you are blessed, well, and healthy. What do y'all think of all this, man? What do y'all think of these judges? I already know what y'all think. So just go and leave a beautiful comment down below. They ought to walk Mr. Murphy out, though. Yeah. Impeachment, There's a whole lot of them that ought to be impeached, walked out in handcuffs, take their robe off. A lot of them don't even deserve it. You know, the people spoke loud and clear. They think they outrank the president. That's what kills me. You know, federal district judge think they outrank the president. I tell you, man.
The Supreme Court has ruled the Trump administration can deport migrants to countries other than their own. It's the latest ruling in favor of the president's push for mass deportations. The court's action lifted a lower judge's order that required migrants being deported to have enough time to contact lawyers and present evidence that could show their lives were in danger if deported to certain countries. Joining us now is the Hill's courts and legal reporter, Zach Schoenfeld. Zach, the Supreme Court's majority did not offer its reasoning to lift the ruling, and now the case will return to an appeals court. What are the next steps in this case, and could it end up back in front of the justices?
Hey, Drew, it could end up back in front of the justices. This is just an emergency ruling that, for now, lifts that Boston-based federal judge's injunction that had placed these limits on the administration's deportations. So next, this is going to go back to a lower appeals court, the First Circuit. The Trump administration is going to have their chance to appeal this in normal course. But then whoever loses at the First Circuit could bring this right back to the Supreme Court on their normal docket. But in the meantime, this is a big win for the Trump administration. That appeals process is probably going to take many months to resolve itself. And in the meantime, the Trump administration will now more easily be able to rapidly deport these migrants to third countries, often where they have no ties.
What was the reaction from dissenting justices?
Yeah, Drew, a pretty fiery dissent here from the court's 3 Democratic appointees. It was authored by Justice Sonia Sotomayor and joined by Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'll just read you a little bit of it. Sotomayor writing that her colleagues find the idea that thousands will suffer violence in far-flung locales more palatable than the remote possibility that a district court exceeded its remedial powers. Sotomayor really across these 19 pages really stressed the idea that if these migrants' claims are true, that they could face violence or persecution if they are deported to these countries, that's true, that this could be a matter of life and death for them. Now, Sotomayor is often in dissent when the Trump administration gets its way on these immigration cases, but even for her, Drew, this language here is quite forceful.
Zach, the lower court's order focused on a flight carrying migrants that initially was headed to South Sudan, but ended up in Djibouti. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy issued an injunction blocking the flight destined for South Sudan. What's the status of that deportation flight?
Those migrants are still in Djibouti as far as we know. And I should stress here at the onset, these migrants are convicted criminals. They are convicted of serious, often violent offenses. They were on their way to South Sudan. And as you mentioned, when the judge got word of it, he had told the administration that it would violate his order. So at the time, he told the administration they didn't have to return these migrants back to the States, but they at least needed to retain custody of them. So the administration chose to bring them to this military base in Djibouti. The last update we got is that these migrants are being detained in a shipping container. But Drew, it does seem that we may be headed for a battle here about what happens to these migrants now following the Supreme Court's ruling. After the justices issued this decision, very quickly, the immigration groups who now represent these migrants went back to the judge in Boston, Judge Murphy, and asked him to issue a new order that would prevent the migrants from getting right back on a flight and headed to South Sudan. But what was really interesting is the judge gave an update last night. He told the plaintiffs that motion was unnecessary. He actually quoted Sotomayor's dissent and said, yes, they may have lifted my earlier injunction, but he said what was not properly before the Supreme Court was this remedy that he had ordered, that these migrants could not be deported to South Sudan. They had to go to Djibouti or somewhere else. And so he said that that was not properly before the Supreme Court and still remains in effect. We haven't yet heard from the government on this, but you got to imagine, Drew, that the Trump administration is not going to be happy about this judge's thinking.
This was a major win for the Trump administration as it looks to quickly enforce its immigration crackdown.
Win after win after win after win. I don't even know why, you know. I don't even know why they waste everybody's time, man. And why they put themselves in this bind, you know. The people spoke loud and clear, man. We don't got to keep going through this. Majority of America voted for this. You know, and people got to pack their bags. You know, whether they go to this, they here. Hey, people got to go. You got to get gone. A complete invasion, wide open. No common sense. Lives have been devastated. People have been spit on. Brutally murdered, raped, and killed. You know, and over in other places you can't do. None of this is happening. You can't do this. Try taking your butt and going way over there and trying this crap. I tell you, man. And I think we ought to. I'm telling you, we ought to put that judge in handcuffs and put him on the plane and send his butt and deport his butt.
The president's executive orders continue to get tested at the Supreme Court. Are we getting a better idea of how the justices will rule on the power the administration can wield?
We are. This is the latest in a series of wins for the Trump administration on the Supreme Court's emergency docket. The Trump administration has been bringing what's really an avalanche of emergency applications, to say the least. They brought 19 since Inauguration Day, quite a high number. But we've seen in the cases that have been decided so far that the Trump administration has been winning more often than not. And you see that in the immigration context specifically. It was just a few weeks ago that the court allowed the Trump administration to revoke temporary legal status for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans. So the Trump administration has been getting a series of wins. But the other thing that I think is important to point out is we know that these decisions are coming down as the justices are simultaneously behind the scenes working on their decision in the birthright citizenship case, where the administration is asking them to rein in these lower district judges who have been issuing nationwide injunctions that block the president's policies anywhere in the country. And because the majority didn't explain their reasoning in this decision, this lower judge's ruling, it was a nationwide injunction. We don't know if the Supreme Court is lifting it because they're about to rein in these nationwide injunctions. We don't know if it's because they actually agree that these deportations are illegal. We just don't know because the majority didn't explain their reasoning. But you've got to take, into account here the fact that we know that we're getting ready for that big decision on birthright citizenship here in a few days.
A lot to follow, as always, with the Trump administration and the courts. Followed Zach's reporting by going over to thehill.com and subscribing.
All right, man. All right. And they gotta walk this brother out in handcuffs. Time for impeachment. And it's a lot of these judges ought to be walked out. A lot of these judges ought to be walked out, man. Defying the Supreme Court order. I'll tell you, you just can't make this crap up, man. You just can't. Look at the scum. Look. He look like one of them snake oil salesmen. He look like one of them scums. That at the car dealership, and he done told you one thing, and then you go back into the finance room, and the interest rate it went up another 10%, and then he done lied, and now the vehicle Carfax and came back, and it has a rebuilt Savage title. No good. It's been in 5 accidents. And he said that the Carfax was clean. Yeah, that's what he reminded me of. That one that person in the dealership that is a complete disgrace. Yeah. Anyways, what do y'all think of Mr. Brian Murphy? Leave a beautiful comment down below as they're calling for his impeachment. And hey, I love y'all, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace and love, family.